I hope now I would be audible. Okay, now it's okay. Okay, thank you so much. Amazing. So happy evening, everyone. A very good evening, and I hope and I believe all of you are doing well. And welcome to the NF100 episode 74, which is going to be on enzyme inhibition. Right, the types of enzyme inhibition: competitive, non-competitive, uncompetitive. Very, very important. Like one question in the exam is almost there. The graphs are important. Even the one-liner questions are important, right? On basically enzyme inhibition, right? So we are going to see competitive, non-competitive, and uncompetitive. We are going to see the graph, and we are going to see basically the line Weaver Burk plots, right? Priya, PDF General Pharmacology is still remaining. Thank you for reminding. I need that reminder because I tend to forget. I'll do that before I sleep tonight for sure. Okay, aaj pakka I'll do it. If you are reminded, I'll do it today. Okay, and all right. So there are some announcements that I would like to make, and I don't want anybody of you to miss on that. And those are one, I'm sure all of you know about Compete. Where you basically compete with your friends, competitors, and you get to know that who's standing where. It's basically a live quiz between you and your friend. And for NEET PG 2023, we have quite a few rank booster batches running on the platform for the subscribers. We have, so I'm taking a batch which is till NEET PG we have planned. Till now we have completed like mnemonics, subject-wise mnemonics, important mnemonics is what we have done. And after that we have started with pharmacology, basically crash course. We have done ANS, CVS, CNS, and tomorrow 12 noon is the next class where we would be doing anti-cancer drugs and the remaining of CNS pharmacology, the PYQs of CNS pharmacology. Okay. All right, and we also have the other batches where Dr. Zainab is taking all subjects rapid revision. Dr. Preeti Sharma is taking pathology and microbiology punch batch, and these have started from October, that is this month, and they'll be going on till February, that is still NEET PG. Apart from that, we have the best of the educators for the respective subjects as well. Right, so make sure you make the best of all of these. You take one subscription and you get access to all of these batches, and we have this offer till 31st of October, where if you take a 4-month subscription you get free 1-month extension. So basically 5 months ka subscription is now available at 13770. You need to use the code Dr. Nikita, right? So you get 1-month extension if you take 4-month subscription, and you'll get access to all these batches. I would strongly recommend watching all of these 3 batches. They will definitely give you a push in your preparation and in your scores, right? And then apart from that, we have iconic subscription as well, plus subscription. The minimum duration now is 4 months. If you take till 31st, you will get plus 1 month extra, right? And we have light subscription, which is the test series. All the good tests are there. Soon I'll be updating you on what kind of test also we have on the platform. We have Prof Fund subscription as well. Right now, starting with the, I am sorry, in the middle of the session, Rekha, would be difficult to share the PDF now. After the session, general pharmacology or enzyme inhibition wala share kar deti hu ye wala. Okay, I hope that works. All right, what is the plan for tomorrow? The plan for tomorrow is at 12 p.m. we have the plus class of the ongoing pharmacology crash course, where we said that CNS pharmacology PYQs and the anti-cancer drugs is what we are going to do. And 9 p.m. we have a KBMD session as well. Okay, 9 p.m. we will have another KBMD. We had one yesterday. Okay. Mama, all right, just give me a minute. Thank you. Mama, api ye den wala den. Mama, solte jodi kya? Right. I hope now I'm audible. All right, so I said sorry for that interruption, and you know how kids are. Kyra was super excited. She had been somewhere and she got that flower, so she could not even wait till the class was over. She had to be here in the middle of the class to give that flower to me, right? So, yes. See, Thomas Shelby, absolutely. So when you are an educator, and especially on the online platform, you need to know the technical stuff as well. I have realized it many times. Okay, start kare with the topic. Enzyme inhibition, NF100 episode 74. All right. So what is competitive inhibition? What is non-competitive inhibition? And what is uncompetitive inhibition? So basically, as the term says, competitive means the enzyme site is the same where the substrate or the inhibitor binds. So competitive means that they are competing. Okay, competitive means that they are competing for the same site. So you can see that there is only one site where both the substrate and the inhibitor would bind. Next, non-competitive, right? Non-competitive means we are not competing, and so two different sites, so we are not competing. Substrate site is different from the inhibitor site. So what does then? How is this inhibitor inhibiting the substrate binding? So what does inhibitor do is it sits on its sites on the enzyme, and it causes a conformational change in such a way that the substrate is not able to bind there. Okay? So remember that this is also allosteric inhibition. Allo, by allo we mean different. Allosteric site, the inhibitor binds at the allosteric site. So remember, non-competitive is also allosteric inhibition. Allosteric means a different site than the substrate site. And what is uncompetitive inhibition? Uncompetitive inhibition is where the inhibitor binds to the enzyme substrate complex. So after the substrate has bound to the enzyme, the substrate should not feel that yes, the reaction will go on aram se once I have occupied the seat. Even after the substrate binding to the enzyme, there can be something which can bind to the complex, and then it can cause the inhibition, right? So that is basically what is uncompetitive, is where it binds to the enzyme substrate complex. So I hope first these terminologies are clear. Competitive, non-competitive, and uncompetitive. Competitive binding to the same site, non-competitive allosteric, and uncompetitive means it binds to the enzyme substrate complex. Okay, that is what it is. Now, what is the difference between competitive inhibitors and non-competitive inhibitors? Very important point first here to be highlighted is this one. The Km and the Vmax. Okay, what happens to Km and the Vmax? You know, we tend to get confused in this. So the trick is competitive inhibition. Okay, competitive, write it as competitive. And when you write competitive, remember that it is KMII. That is, Km is increasing in competitive. So remember, it is Km is increasing in competitive inhibition. The other one, that is the Vmax, remains the same. Right? One changes, one remains the same. In non-competitive inhibition, it is the opposite. It is the Vmax which decreases, the Km remains the same. Now tell me, what is the concept of this Km? Background Diwali noise. Enjoy that as well. What is the concept of Km? Km is, how is the relation of Km to affinity? The affinity of the substrate binding to the enzyme. What is the relation of Km to affinity? Is it directly proportional or is it inversely proportional? So remember that Km is inversely proportional to the affinity. Okay, Km is inversely proportional to the affinity. Now in competitive inhibition, the substrate binding, the affinity is decreased because the site is occupied by the inhibitor. Right, तो उसका affinity कम हो गया. Affinity कम हो गया मतलब Km क्या हो जाएगा? The Km will increase. Okay, the Km will basically increase. And what is the definition of Km? If they tell you that for a reaction at Vmax, the velocity of the reaction, the Vmax, is when the substrate concentration is 100. So what is the value of Km? This is a potential question that can come in the exam. जब Vmax है, सपोज Vmax पे 100 concentration है, Vmax by 2 पे half the Vmax, it is 50 concentration. So basically remember it is the Km. Km is the concentration of the substrate at which the reaction rate is Vmax by half. There's half the Vmax. Okay, there's half the Vmax. So remember that is what is basically Km. Okay, that is what is Km. And in non-competitive inhibition, we said that it is allosteric site. The inhibitor is binding somewhere else. So the affinity is not decreased. That means the Km will remain constant. So basically what do we need to remember is competitive versus non-competitive, the Km and the Vmax. Competitive Km increases, Vmax remains the same. Non-competitive, it is the Km which is remaining constant. It is the Vmax which is decreasing. Vmax does not increase. And what happens in uncompetitive inhibition? What happens in uncompetitive inhibition? Both decrease. Okay, both decrease basically in uncompetitive inhibition, right? So let's have quickly a read of the stable competitive inhibition. The substrate and inhibitor are basically similar, and the inhibitor binds to the active site. It does not change the shape of the active site. When you increase the substrate concentration, it reduces the inhibition. That means the Vmax can be achieved. Non-competitive inhibition, these are chemically not similar. Inhibitor binds at allosteric site. It changes the shape of active site. Even if you increase the substrate concentration, the inhibition will not be gone, because that means the Vmax decreases, right? The Vmax decreases. And I will come to this example as well later on, competitive and non-competitive, okay? Now look at the graph. How do you identify competitive inhibition kaun sa hai or non-competitive kaun sa hai? Very, very important. Again, this applies to both biochemistry and even similar sort you would be seeing in pharmacology as well, the dose response curve. Now, this is the normal enzyme, right? The left wala, जो सबसे left वाला है, basically that has the maximum rate of reaction. ठीक है, जो Y के पास है उसका rate of reaction सबसे ज़्यादा. So ये है normal, and then these two are the inhibitors. The right वाले are the inhibitors, right? So when we say basically with the inhibitor, what we are doing, we are going towards the right. The substrate concentration is increasing, right? We need to increase the substrate concentration. Now, how do you identify? Easy trick to remember competitive and non-competitive inhibition. Competitive wala is at the same level as the normal enzyme, right? So you compete with someone who is of your same level. You don't compete with someone who is below your level, right? So हम उसके साथ ही compete करेंगे. Suppose your GT scores is coming 500. You will not compete with someone who's getting a score of 100. You will compete with someone who's getting a score of 550, 520, right? So basically we compete with the people of the same level. So remember, competitive reaches the same level. Non-competitive means below level वाला जो हमारे साथ competition में ही नहीं है. So basically the graph goes down. Right, so with the non-competitive, the graph goes down, remember that. So competitive basically reaches the same height, the same level. Non-competitive is the one as compared to the normal, the height goes down. So basically, same concept, competitive inhibition, you can see that the height is, the y-axis is basically representing the Vmax. The Vmax remains the same. What is changing is the Km. The Km is increasing. Okay, the Km is increasing. For non-competitive inhibition, you can see the height is going down. So basically the Vmax is decreasing, the Km is the same. Easy trick, like I said, just remember competitive inhibition, Km increases in competitive. Even if you remember that, automatically you would be able to remember the rest of the values. Okay, you would be able to remember the rest of the values, right? So remember that competitive is Km increasing, so the Vmax same. Non-competitive will be ulta, it is the Vmax which decreases and the Km remains the same. In uncompetitive, both decreases. Right, now coming to the Line-Weaver Burk plots, this has been asked in one of the recent INICT exam as well. Okay, the Line-Weaver Burk plots seems difficult, but actually this is very easy on how to identify the Line-Weaver Burk plots of which inhibition. The trick to remember is competitive inhibition. Remember the lines cross, C for C. Uncompetitive, when I write uncompetitive U, the two lines that we see in U, basically these are parallel. So uncompetitive is parallel. Non-competitive, when I write N, so basically it is V and V shape. Ulta V and Seedha V, right? The Ulta V and the Seedha V. So basically it is V shape with non-competitive. Now look at the graphs. Out of the three graphs, you can see that the one which are crossing, the lines are crossing each other. Right, the lines are crossing each other. So basically crossing wala is competitive inhibition. Okay, crossing wala is competitive inhibition. The next one, it is parallel lines that you can see. Right, you can see that it is parallel lines. So that means parallel lines, if I join this, basically this is uncompetitive. So in uncompetitive, it is parallel lines. This is the V shape that we see, it is V. So basically this is N, right? This is non-competitive is V shape. Okay, it is V shape basically. So what does this graph indicate basically? What is the graph indicating? Why in competitive inhibition you see the crossing of the lines? What is the concept here? You are also asked that in Line-Weaver Burk plots, this double reciprocal plot, what is along this y-axis and what is the x-axis basically? The vertical line, remember, is the 1 by V, and the horizontal line, the x-axis, is the substrate 1 by S. So remember, vertical is 1 by V and this X is S. It is the substrate concentration. So when we say that these are crossing at this y-axis, so basically means 1 by V is same for both of them. That means the Vmax is same. This is competitive, right? The V is the same for both of them. You can see that in competitive, these are changing, right? On the x-axis, they have different values. That means substrate concentration that affects the Km. The Km is different for both of them. Now, even in this very important point, which can be asked is this the inhibitor or is this the inhibitor? Which of these is inhibitor? The red line or the blue line? Which is the inhibitor? Which is the inhibitor? How will you identify which is the inhibitor? Both of them have the same Vmax. So this is competitive inhibition. This is, remember, this is 1 by S. Okay. This is basically 1 by S. So this is the inhibitor wala graph. जिसमें ये negative value, basically this is less negative. So that is basically more. The substrate concentration that we require is more. So right, basically what you need to remember in the Line-Weaver Burk plot, यहाँ पे जो left वाला होता है, जो left वाला है, that is the inhibitor. The left wala is the inhibitor. Okay. And this is, okay, this one is 1 by S here, which is less. Now going to the next one, in uncompetitive, remember, it is parallel. The Km and the Vmax both are reduced. So when we say it is parallel lines means that the slope is the same, right? The slope is the same basically. And even you can see that the V ka value is different. They are intersecting the vertical at the different line, and even the x-axis, the S at different. So basically both are changed in uncompetitive. So that is why they are parallel. Remember, the slope is the same. So if they ask you कि कौन से inhibition में Line-Weaver Burk plot में the slope remains the same slope basically means parallel lines. Okay, so parallel lines is basically uncompetitive inhibition. In non-competitive inhibition, why do you get V shape? Because in non-competitive, it is the Km which is remaining constant. So Km is basically the substrate concentration, the S which is the x-axis. So both of them will have the same 1 by S concentration. That means the Km is the same. The vertical line would be different. The Vmax is basically different. and the left one is the one which is basically the inhibitor, okay, which is basically the inhibitor, right? So जो ऊपर वाला है basically वो जो है ऊपर वाला, that is the inhibitor, it is affecting the Vmax. So remember that even this is asked as a question कि whether A is inhibitor or B is inhibitor. Okay, the A is inhibitor or the B is inhibitor. The upper one is basically the inhibitor because it is 1 by V. Okay, it is 1 by V. So when I say that the Vmax is decreased, 1 by 10 versus 1 by 100, which of these has a higher value? 1 by 10. The Vmax is reduced. The 1 by V value will be higher. So the one which is higher is basically the inhibitor. So I hope now you have got the concept of Weaver Burk plot as well. Till now we used to learn ki bhai, the trick is competitive is crossing, uncompetitive is parallel, and non-competitive is V-shape. Okay, and non-competitive is V-shape. Now we have also learned the concept that why do we get these graphs in the different. यहाँ पे this is Vmax which is the same. यहाँ पे it is the Km, the substrate concentration, basically the Km which is the same. So this is competitive and this is non-competitive. Where both the values are different, both are affected. So basically that is uncompetitive inhibition. Okay, that is uncompetitive inhibition. Right? Clear with everyone? Got the concept? Now coming to this point, that in TCA cycle, which is a competitive inhibitor, remember malonate inhibits succinate dehydrogenase. The trick to remember that is MSD, MS Dhoni. Another important question, remember that malonate inhibits succinate dehydrogenase. It does not inhibit succinate thiokinase, it is succinate dehydrogenase, which is also basically what complex of the ETC? The electron transport chain, what complex? Electron transport chain, what complex? Very good, Mahek. I'm glad. So remember it is complex 2. The second complex is the succinate dehydrogenase. Okay, it is the second complex. So malonate basically inhibits complex 2. It is succinate dehydrogenase wala. And this is an example of competitive inhibition or non-competitive inhibition. Remember MSD, MS Dhoni is a very, very competitive personality, right? Always wants to win the match. So competitive. So malonate inhibiting succinate dehydrogenase is an example of competitive inhibitor. The rest of the TCA cycle inhibitors that we read, basically arsenite wala, fluoroacetate wala, the rest of them are non-competitive. Remember, this is an example of competitive. Another question here, succinate dehydrogenase. What is the metallic, basically the cofactor for succinate dehydrogenase? Is it copper? Is it iron? Is it nickel, magnesium, manganese, zinc? For succinate dehydrogenase, what is the metal cofactor? What is the metal cofactor for succinate dehydrogenase? Right, it is iron. Okay, remember it is iron. So you can remember this as that MS Dhoni is competitive and MS Dhoni is like an Iron Man, strong like an Iron Man. So remember it is iron. Okay, iron is what is the cofactor for succinate dehydrogenase, right? So yes, that completes the topic of enzyme inhibition. The competitive, non-competitive, uncompetitive example of one example here is malonate inhibiting succinate dehydrogenase, very, very important, and the graphs are absolutely important for the exam. Okay, even for INI-CT, these are very important. So thank you so much everyone for joining in. When are we meeting? Tomorrow 12 noon for the plus class, the pharmacology crash course, and please make the best of the opportunity that you have. 1 month extra free extension. If you take till 31st October 4-month subscription using the code, you have Dr. Nikita, you get 1 month extra. And that one subscription will give you access to all the ongoing batches, the various rank booster batches which are going on the platform. So see you tomorrow at 12 and also at 9 for the KBMD episode, right? The KBMD mixed bag episode, Kaun Banega MD, which is basically a live quiz. Okay. Thank you and goodbye. Take care and keep studying, keep